We can use shorter chairs if you wanted to.
Too late.
It's never too late. You stay right there.
The Dr. Oba Tashaka Show. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. A show for all who are on the journey to discover the truths about their identity, history, culture, politics, spirituality, and family relationships. This is a show for the Black Freedom Movement and the Black Power generation and the hip-hop generation, including Black Lives Matter and associate activists, all of whom are seeking change. Dr. Oba Tashaka and his guests are dropping knowledge and insight from his successful organizing, research, writings, and innovative thoughts, the best of which have piped into God's mind to lift you up higher and higher. To the bosses, OGs, rappers, influencers, and those looking to evolve from the constraints of misinformation and miseducation to build a foundation for personal growth, love, and mental freedom. Check out the wisdom of the OR. Yeah, that's the original revolutionary, Oba T, who inspired 1 million black men with his rousing speech at the Million Man March, and who continues to fight, write, and speak the truth. Dr. Oba Tashaka is one of the deepest deep thinkers in the world today. A quote by Dr. Asa Hilliard. Dr. Oba Tashaka, then Bill Bradley, was the best leader organizer in the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE. An endorsement from Dr. George Wiley, Associate Director of National CORE and the best organizer blacks produced in the 1970s as the organizer of the National Welfare Rights Organization. The Dr. Oba Tashaka Show. Free your mind, and the rest will follow.
There we go. Yeah, we good.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. We were having a little setup issues here. I want to greet everyone for this show. And I want to greet Wolf Manlu, dedicated viewer, serious thinker. Sister Robin, one of our most dedicated viewers. Kurt Thomas, Bakari Sanyu, Ed Donaldson. We had some sign-ins that are new. M. Jewel, Lao Tzu. Let's see right here. Yvette Anderson, who's new to the show, and she's related to one of our regular viewers here. Ancient African Mindset. Kurt Thomas. So greetings to all of you. We've got a real good show for you today. I want to encourage people who have not subscribed to the show to subscribe and to also donate.
Got no class.
Make sure that you hit the subscribers button.
They did.
Last week, we talked about low intensity operations with one of our guests. And Ustadi, sit up in that chair, brother. Brother Ustadi Kadiri, and we were dealing with the case study of the Black Liberation or the Symbionese Liberation Army. And it was centered on the experiences of the Pan-African People's Organization that Brother Ustadi and myself are members of, and Brother Robert Woods works with. And so this is an extension of Pan-African People's Organization, an organization formed in 1966. And today it's going to be focusing on Black institution building in the context of independent Black schools. So our topic for today is, quote, the value and purpose of independent Black schools in educating Black children. Let me repeat. Topic for today is the value and purpose of independent Black schools in educating Black children. So our guests for today are two experts on independent Black schools and Black education. Both have spent a lifetime in teaching in independent Black schools, specifically the African Children's Advanced Learning Center. Our guests are, to my right, Brother Robert Woods, who is a headmaster teacher at the African Children's Advanced Learning Center, and he's been the master teacher, the head teacher for 30 years. How you doing, Brother Robert Woods?
Feeling fine.
Right on. This brother has a lot of different talents we'll go into in just a minute. Our second guest on the show, who was on last week, is Brother Ustadi Kadiri. How you doing, Brother Ustadi?
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Right on. You'll see a car behind him. Ustadi is among, he has many different talents. And in addition to be the mathematics teacher at the school and a mathematician and science teacher, he's also a master mechanic and a master printer and a master organizer. And we're dealing with two very dedicated brothers here who put their lives into educating our youth. Brother Robert Woods teaches a variety of subjects in the school, and he's a master poet. He's a poet's poet. He was born with the voice of a poet, and then he's got the gift of poetry. And I can imagine when he whispers some of that poetry on the ladies, he got some results. But he's a master poet. He's also, he's got the kind of personality, in addition to the talents that he has as a teacher, he's got the kind of personality that young people relate to. He's serious but nice, you know? And I think they also like the fact that he's cool and hip, but he doesn't take any mess, you know? So Robert Wood. So he's multidimensional in what he does in the school. Brother Ustadi, as I pointed out before, is a mathematician. He teaches science in the school. He also knows history and our culture, community organizer, and a man of many other skills. So, we're very fortunate to have had both of them and to have both of them teaching in the school and also doing a lot of other things they do, as well as we've had a number of other people that have been important. Brother Thabiti Mtambuzi, who has been a major leader in the school and provides the place where the school operates. All of his children have gone through the school, including his granddaughter, who just graduated with a full scholarship in a university in New York. And she went all her education through our school. And we've had other people in the organization that have played a very important role, and they can acknowledge some of them later. So my first question for both of you is, what motivated both of you to dedicate a good part of your life really, to educating Black children, especially within the context of independent Black schools where you're not getting rich? So what is it that's really motivated you, Brother Robert Woods, start with you, to do this?
Well, I had first-hand experience in the public schools. I worked in the Berkeley public school system in California for 6 years, and I saw what was going on in the Berkeley public school, which is supposed to be a pretty progressive school system. But I saw the lack of teaching and the lack of love that was shown to African children. I took a circuitous route. I got out of the school system, had not planned to teach anymore. Went to Ohio for a few years, 5 or 6 years, came back and then I joined the African Children's Advanced Learning Center, where I thought I would only be there for a year. But I don't think I did a bang up job, and for my own self-worth, I had to ask them if they mind if I stay another couple of years to develop myself in the area of teaching. And now it's 32 years. So I think I'm
32 years.
almost developed.
That's a real understatement. I remember when Ustadi and Thabiti told me they were looking for a head teacher, and then they weren't satisfied with anybody. And then they said, "Oh, we got this application from Brother Robert Woods. That's it." I said, "Oh, okay.
That was it.
That's it." Because if you get past these two guys, Ustadi and Thabiti, you come through a real filter, They said, "Oh, this brother's good." I didn't have to ask anymore because they run the school. I don't have any say so in its day-to-day operation. But I said, okay, so I knew that had to be something real good. You know what I mean? Ustadi, what is it that has inspired you to dedicate a good part of your life to?
I will say that. I'll say that in a minute, but I just gotta add on to what you said. We was getting all these applications, people with PhDs, and a lot of PhDs, a lot of masters, but once we ran across Baba Robert Woods, we just everybody else just went to the side because we wasn't looking for degrees. We were looking for dedication. And just like he said, we knew him. We knew he was a good brother. And I don't think we did wrong. We've been here 32 years. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah. But I guess when I came out of high school, I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I was in the drawer. And I think what really got me was, I guess, Shaka, you could almost say it was at the disturbing stage. What happened was I was very skillful with whatever I did. So I was a counselor at the San Francisco Job Corps in San Francisco Residential Center. And I was basically running the whole thing. And the director, which was a brother, told me that he was going to back out because he was coming up from LA and staying a week and then going home. And he wanted me to be the director, but I did not have a degree, although I could run the whole, but I did not have a degree. And watching them young brothers in there, they was all, I think 16 to 18 that we had in Job Corps. And they was, they didn't know anything. But that wasn't what really got me. What really got me was when he left, it said that the assistant director was a European, and it said no nepotism. You could not hire nobody in your family. He hired his brother to be the assistant director while I'm just a counselor. That didn't bother me. What really bothered me, this boy couldn't write and couldn't put a sentence together if he wanted to. So that was the initiation for me. I can help these young brothers, but I got to have a piece of paper. And that's what initiated me to really go to school and then to try to give back to these brothers who just, they were just hanging on. And at least I no parents, no nothing. So I think that was my greatest motivation to help at a young age. And I think I was only like 27 or 28 then.
Right on. And you can always tell whether or not people are really in it by what they do with their life. And when this becomes a life commitment and at a stage of excellence, then you know that. And that's the case with these two brothers right here. Let's put Black or African education into a historical context. Because this is an African-centered school, African Children's Advanced Learning Center. It's not the Negro Students Advanced Learning Center. It's the African Children's Advanced Learning Center. So the name tells you something about its direction. So both of you, from your perspective, what was the purpose of education in ancient Africa? And from your knowledge, what were some of the ways in which African people and African children were educated?
Go ahead, so you can answer that.
Okay, clarification on the name first. The it's really funny. But it's not funny. Me and Thabiti Upesi, the name when we switched from Center for Progressive Education to African Children Advanced Learning Center, the children actually named the school. All of them agreed on African. They all agreed on children, but it was Malia Umtambuzi, Thabiti's son. I think he was like 10 or 11 then, put the word advance in it. He's the one that put the advance in it. So, and learn they could all agree upon it. So that was right there to just tell you that he came from good stock. Okay, now, but going back to your original question, education basically means to bring something out that's already in. And that was the basis of everything that Africans on the African level was to bring something out of the child that was already in there. So that was the first thing. Now, if I'm correct, I think I guess even if you put the rites of passage in there on the education aspect of it, if we're talking about the continent, is that what we're referring to right now, Brother Shaka?
Consciousness and skills, yeah, both.
Consciousness? Now, consciousness is okay. I have 4 pillars if you want to deal with the consciousness.
No, we'll do that later.
Right, agreed. So ask me that question so I'm really clear on the question, sir.
Okay. In the context of Black and African education, putting it in a historical context, what was the purpose of education in ancient and traditional Africa?
Oh, to bring the best out of the kids and usually follow some type of tradition, some known tradition. I think that was one of the most important things. Like people just followed in the footsteps of their parents, although they had a system, but it was well, I don't want to get into the grade A system. It was a system from that perspective to bring out what's best in the child.
Let me add on to education. Historically, was not for the betterment of the individual, but for the betterment of the society.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we go astray. We talk about in this system in this society, education not for the betterment of the society, but for the enrichment of the individual, and that's where historically it falls apart, and why we have a lot of problems with educated people. A crook is a crook is a crook, and the educated crook is a better crook.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get into the individualistic type of education, and education to enhance the betterment of the community is what we should be aiming for. And I think that's where we veer off from the historical perspective of education.
Those are, I think, Ustadi, when you started off, you hit the essence of what African education is about, which is bringing out what is within. Whereas Western education is depositing from the outside information to make people servants of the system, basically. And too often, even Blacks who are teaching in Black education end up finding themselves doing the same thing. They're dropping information on people without going into how you pull out what's best within people. So your definition, Ustadi, as you know, is the definition in ancient Kemet of Seba,
Mm-hmm.
bringing the light that is within out, which was viewed as stellar light. And of course, a lot of us today, because we've been despiritualized, we are alienated from the systems that really tell us what that is. Astrology is the best system for that, because we now know every human being's a miniature star. We're made up of the same elements as the stellar system, just more water and air, because of the nature of what it is to live in this avenue of the Milky Way. So, therefore, the goal of education is to bring the light that is in out. And when you do that, that's real education. And so in Kemet, you had Atseba, Atseba. That was the lower educational system. And then you had Perank. That was the House of Life higher educational system. And that's where you trained all the administrators, priests, and everything except warriors in Kemet. So, but then in Inner Africa, you had apprenticeship systems, mastery systems. Many parts of Africa did not have a written system. Some did, many did not. People's minds were the libraries and the books, and their character was really what you were working on when you educated people. And the people who taught were masters of different realms of life, but most importantly, masters of good character.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dogon, the Bambara, many others had this. And so when Blacks come into the Americas and the US, they're bringing in that. Ustadi, is there anything you can do with closing that door so you don't hear these dogs barking? Can you do anything there?
Not really.
Okay, it's all right. So Africans who are educated in these kinds of systems, they were each libraries, and education was lifelong. And as Brother Robert Wood said, it was education for the community. So
Mhm.
among the Bambara, your real education started at 21 years of age. You were already educated in the basic. But from 21 to 42, you underwent apprenticeship in whatever your chosen field was, which is your light, whatever your gift was. You apprenticed under masters. And you could not leave the village for 21 years because your job was also to protect the village, the community. But after age 42, you could then travel throughout Kemet, throughout Bambara country, which is in Mali in this case, and then, learn more. So education was a lifelong experience, much like John Henry Clark described his education. He was undergoing education right up to his death under masters. Now, with colonialism and slavery, we have some new experiences coming in, some experiences that were inhumane. And Africans carry into the Caribbean and the United States attitudes about African education. How did the attitudes of Africans coming out of Africa into enslavement conflict with the ideas of the enslavers about education for Blacks? What's y'all's response to that?
Hmm?
Africans are coming in to enslavement with an African background, African education. What do you think that led them to want when they're coming into the United States? What do you think their major desires were in life that had been instilled in them through this education and this culture?
Well, the first desire is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
To be free, not only physically, but free in the mind, and free to, I guess, to aspire to be the best that they can be.
Right.
We don't talk about the skills that they brought to the so-called New World. Many of the enslavers were dependent upon the Africans for building the New World because they had those skills to begin with, especially in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
We understood that they were the people who could work the land and had knowledge of growing various food items and materials which were used for the sell on the open market.
It was antagonistic because of where they coming from and the thought process. The thought process is here is that you're a worker and you're not a thinker. That's why you had all of the inventions. So therefore, I would say anytime someone from the continent was captured and brought over here, it was against the will. So the first thing was combative. Like Brother Wood say, it's very combative. So right off the top, you had two opposite forces, could only cause chaos, could only cause bloodshed, could only cause death. So I think on the education aspect of it, it was the freedom aspect of it. And the freedom aspect of it was to go home. But the other side of the coin was you're locked down. So if you're locked down, now you have to deal with the situation we're in, just like we're in right now. And you have to have a choice. And the choice was either to give in or conform or try another way out. I guess that's why you had the Harriet Tubman who couldn't read or write, you know. So it's some opposites there, brother, from my perspective on education.
Yeah, and your point, Ustadi, about the goal of education being to bring out what is within. These Africans came with that sense. They came with the sense of their inner light, and they came with the sense of what their destiny and purpose was on this earth. And they saw enslavement as both humiliation because it was treating them like they weren't human beings, restricting their freedom, and most importantly, denying them the opportunity and right to be themselves, to be the God that is within each one of us. And so the African who came to the US, the Caribbean, South America, wherever, they were fighters. And this is a myth that we get about enslavement. You know, they came in and the woe is me and they were broke. Yes, there was an attempt to break us. Mm-hmm. But as one enslaver said in Suriname, these people can't be broken. Right? And that was true in the US. So the motto of the enslaved African was, if you said no, we said yes. You know, whatever it was, we were going to the opposite of it. We weren't often declaring it. We were too smart to do that. And if a master was real bad, we'd take him out and he'd disappear. Mm-hmm. I mean, so that was the resistant spirit. And we got to remember that the average enslaved African was between 18 and 31.
Right.
They were young, so they had a fighting spirit. And enslaved Africans who had been here for a generation or so, they called that African courage. So that was really key in terms of the legacy that was being passed on. So their desire for education, as Brother Robert Wood said, was they came in with skills, all kinds of skills. Malcolm X's great-great-great-grandfather was Bombara. He was both a master builder and a warrior, 6'4", took no mess. You hear me? And if you see Malcolm's family, the whole family line fit that model, 6'4" and 6'3", and took no mess, and were master builders, except for Malcolm, who was a builder of men and women. He took his building skills to the personal level. So this was extremely important. And so a lot of us confuse education with literacy. So if you can't read and write, you're not being educated. The truth is, whether you could read or write, the best educated blacks were the ones least messed with in their heads by white people.
Uneducated.
And sometimes those were the ones who couldn't read and write, oftentimes. But they knew what was right and they had wisdom. And then later they would pursue this quest in slavery and afterwards for literacy because they knew they needed it. Now, with emancipation and Black Reconstruction, where Black legislators enacted free public education in the South for the first time, then what ends up happening is Black people have the opportunity to take advantage of this education. So what was the attitude of Black teachers, Black parents, and Black children towards education during this period of Black Reconstruction? What was the attitude?
I can't answer that.
I would say if you cannot read or write, then you want your children to learn to read or write, because you cannot depend upon your oppressor to teach you the correct thing. So you have to learn to read or write on your own. And it was always understood that you have to be twice as good as any European in order to make it, because it was a double standard like it is today. So I think the most important thing was to make sure your children could read or write. If you could not read or write, if you had to send them to school, you could not go to school. Even when you was going to school, if there was a field, you only went to school like five months out of the year. The rest of the time you was gonna be in the field as soon as the crop come. Like old folks say, if they can get through January and February, they can march by themselves. That means they gonna make it. The fields are gonna be calling. So that's the most important thing, is that they wanted their kids to be better than them. But somehow that was the whole emphasis. My kids must learn how to read. My kids must be better than me. So that's my thought process in respects to that.
Got anything to add to that, Robert Woods?
No, I think he said it all that need to be said about that.
I'm thinking of John Henry Clark, and he's coming right in this period. It's after Reconstruction, but he's coming out of the Black school, and he's in Georgia. And so in the Black school, he's got Black teachers, and he's talking about how it was what these Black teachers saw in him that encouraged him to pursue excellence in his life. And the ethos of the Black teacher was that they expected something great out of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so John Henry Clark would always talk about Miss Woods, one of his teachers, who told him that he needed to quit playing around, that she saw great promise in him.
Yep.
That this was something that every child needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the ethos of the average Black person, that you should do something great, as Robert Wood said, not for yourself alone, but for the race. Do something great for the race. So if you're reading the book Invisible Man, that's the message that comes out. The sister that stays, the brother that passes out after getting off the subway, 125th Street in New York, she takes him to her home, heals him, and then says, I only want one thing out of you. He said, what is it?
Great.
Do something great for the race.
Right.
So that was the ethos, and it fits back into what you, Robert Woods, was saying. The purpose of education is beyond just the individual. It's for the community, it's for the family, it's for the people. Now, Carter G. Woodson was critical of education for Blacks, the education that Blacks had received at the university level. And this was usually, he was critical of the education that they received in Black colleges, because that's where most of our young people were going at that time. A few went to white colleges, but mostly it was Black colleges. They then called them Negro universities. So what was the main let's talk about the main criticism that Carter G. Woodson had of the kind of education blacks were getting then in this so-called higher education that he called miseducation. Why did he call it miseducation? Let's talk about that.
Primarily because the so-called educated class could not be independent of this society. That they had to be hired by someone else in order to make a living. And that was one of his main things that black folks must be able to do for self. In order to do for self, you must be educated beyond book learning.
You're right, bro.
Scotty, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think book learning is fantastic. In respects to one of the chapters in Carter G. Woodson stated how we fail to learn to make a living. So I can kind of look back in reference to my father, Cutting James, and Mr. Joe. Now, Cutting James couldn't read or write, but Cutting James was a hell of a mechanic. I learned from him. Daddy went to the 7th grade. I learned from him. Mr. Joe, I don't know what Mr. Joe's grade level was, but the most important thing is my Cutting James. He found something that was wrong with a diesel engine that GM made, and he worked for this company, and the company wanted him to go back to Detroit to tell them exactly how they can improve it. But he did not go back because the people didn't know he couldn't read or write. You see? So I would say in response to that, there's nothing wrong with book learning, but you can do more. Well, let me clarify that statement. There's two or three aspects to learning. One is informal and one is formal. Like mine was informal. I never went to school for mechanics. I only went to school to get my smog license. But everything else, Mr. Joe, Cutting James, and Daddy. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we should not undercut ourselves, but it improves your knowledge when you can read and write and understand the small items that you don't understand. So I would say in respects to that, that's one way you can fail to learn to make a living, because other people come here that know they can't speak the language. They can't write checks. And so the thing is just that what they do, they have that informal learning. And I hate to say it, informal sometimes is better because you have hands-on. And then when you go to the formal, it'll make more sense and you can catch on quicker.
Yeah, good point. Carter G. Woodson's critique also and criticism of what he called miseducation in higher education was that the primary problem was that the curriculum was set up to teach you to hate the African and admire what he called the Teuton or the Greek or the European. And so that education then taught you to hate yourself. And as a result, those who were put on that kind of programmed education would be no good for their people, because once they left school, was in black schools or in the black community. But they had been taught that blacks were nothing. So why should they waste their time with that? And remember, black studies didn't start in black colleges.
Sure did.
universities where blacks were the minority, you know, and then picked up by black colleges later. So that was a major thing. So then he said it put the miseducated on what I call remote control. He said during the era of segregation, you didn't have to tell him to go to the back seat of the bus. He or she would go without being told to do so. And I would add, would be telling other blacks to do the same thing. And keeping anyone who is not in order in check. That was their job.
Shit, we
So-
can go back to that. Oh, we went back there.
Education then is more than just about techniques,
Mm-hmm.
science, math, reading, writing, which is important. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the philosophy of education.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be about more than that. Now, both of you, what do you see as the state of education for black children in the public schools today?
Primarily for the majority, it appears to be the killing fields,
Mm-hmm.
as Minister Farrakhan said.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a highly technical society, an uneducated person is doomed for early death, either physically or mentally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Ustadi?
Yeah, I agree. You know, like I guess one of our biggest problems is that we came up under a dominant culture, and that dominant culture will put you in a second-class citizen aspect of it. And once you buy into the second-class citizen aspect of it, you can't do nothing but reach out and think other people are smarter than you, or that you can't learn. So when you get to that, you're automatically defeated because you have a mindset that don't think you can do anything outside of play baseball and basketball and football. So that's one of the that's one of the mindsets that the dominant society can put on inferior person, and we buy into that. And the minute we buy into it, we're locked in for chaos and first to go to jail, last to go to school. My thoughts.
Yeah, what you're seeing now with this critical race theory and woke, which is an invention of the right wing, that there's some woke culture that's out there threatening them. But what you see with critical race theory is false myth, which should be true, that black culture is being taught in the public schools, which is not. Black history, African history. It's
Right.
And so now, like Governor DeSantis of Florida, they're going about, and with certain college board exams as well, stripping out of the curriculum anything that shows a fighting spirit, you know, coming from black people.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of them have compromised to the point, okay, we can deal with that ancient Africa, but we don't want anything about Black Lives Matter. We don't want anything about resistance to racism. My wife was just telling me that they're trying to redefine Rosa Parks as just a person who resisted but wasn't black.
Right.
White.
Well, they actually banned her book, and I think, I don't know what it's in Texas or Florida. They banned books about Rosa Parks' resistance.
Yeah, and why?
Not a
Because
book written on a primary level.
why? Because that was a part of a movement that kicked the behinds of white apartheid, did it in the South, and she was the spark plug, a real nice radical sister whose greatest hero was Malcolm X, but a lady because she had her African carriage about her. So what's not new about this is, I mean, I went through 12 years of public school, 4 years of college, a couple years of law school, didn't get nothing black, not a black teacher, not a black subject, not black anything. So that's not unusual. But now these whites are using it, one, to get elected to presidency and stuff, but the other is they're on the defensive because blacks aren't taking this stuff anymore. There's an awakened African consciousness out there, and they want to shut it off. Well, it's kind of like, stopping the Mississippi River. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or the Atlantic Ocean,
Exactly. They will not be able to shut it off.
Well,
or Nat Turner.
I think the other side of the coin is this: is that when you teach the truth, then that makes the European look bad in his own kids' eyes, and they can put one to one together and start coming up with two, and start cussing or killing their own people because of what they did. And that's where the confusion come in. And you cannot have confusion with grandpa and granddaughter or grandson say, y'all wasn't right back then, because it's the truth. And they don't want the truth to get out. That's not part of their ethics. Their ethic is lie, 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 and more lie. So they get caught in a lie. They got to make a rule to bend it so you can't hear that lie.
Well put. Well put. Yeah, because the truth spreads. It's infectious, and it spreads mostly to the people that need it the most. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
Good old racist children. Because I know I'm a part of a movements where we actually woke white youth up. You know what I mean? Put them in motion.
SDS.
Got them against their parents. Yeah.
SDS.
Yeah. So let's get into this discussion of independent Black schools. First of all, what's meant by this term independent Black schools? Because we're going to be talking about the African Children's Advanced Learning Center. What does that mean, that term mean to you, independent Black schools and schools that operate under that?
Well, for me, it means that we're not under the rubric of any accreditation apparatus that the Europeans have put out. We come up against that constantly. Are you accredited? And I answer that by saying, for instance, in the Oakland Public Schools, all the teachers are accredited, or at least they're supposed to be accredited.
CBS.
And I think the grade point average for the Black student population is 1.7. And if you separate males from females, the males is 1.3. And of course, all the teachers are supposed to be accredited.
Mm-hmm.
The schools are supposed to be under accreditation. And so, what does that mean? You are accredited. And I think the question should be, are you successful rather than accredited? Mm-hmm. Are you successful in teaching our children to perform in the society as good citizens?
Well put. Are you successful? And those grade point averages, that hasn't always been the case. So that's a whole nother story right there. And then there's another side to that. In spite of that, you have Black kids coming out of these public schools that are set up to miseducate them, that represent a significantly large number of youth that are in college. I mean, far greater in number than those in prison. So in spite of that, there's a resistant spirit going on, but for too many, they're buried under this 1.7 and 1.3 grade point average, which I say you have to struggle real hard to get to that level. You know what I mean? To do nothing. I mean, it's a real effort to do nothing. Ustadi, what does independent Black education mean to you?
Well, I guess the easiest way to put it is this, that you don't have to come under WASC. WASC is an acronym for Western Accreditation schools and colleges. Now, what that means is that that acronym is accredited for state of California and Hawaii. That's all. That means that they would have to come and look at your A to G format for each subject matter and say they approve of it. So that means that we have the CB, Council of Independent Black Institution, which does not go with that. So what that means is, first of all, we're not teaching on the level that they want to teach us on, that they want us to be on. Now, the only reason that a teacher in the state of California has to take a CBEST test to become a certified teacher is that they don't care what color you are. They want you to all teach the same thing to their European kids so the rest of them can get it or don't get it. That's what this whole thing is about whether or not we're going to have, what was that word we use? Ethics, race, DeSantis, what DeSantis is doing?
Critical race.
Critical race
theory.
That's the whole thing. They're not going to teach that. So that means that we don't have to worry about that if we're independent. That means that we can teach them what we want to teach them, a value system, a discipline system. We could teach them. Then we could do the academic. That's what it means. So we're trying to go outside of their box that they're trying to box us into. It don't make no difference if you're Asian or black or white or Chicano. If you listen to the news, close your eyes, they all sound alike. We're not the cookie cutter. We're not in that box. So we need more people to get out of that box. So independence to me means not doing what they want us to do, doing what's best for our community, and to make the people go back to work in their community and share what they learned to the community.
Well put. So, I think that both of you are real clear on what that means. You, Brother Robert Woods, talking about how basically the public school system is set up for death, because if you're miseducated, that's basically where you're going to be sent. And the independent black school is set up to follow our own standards, our own purposes, our own goals and objectives. And I'd say, and Ustadi's saying that one of the keys to that is, and this is one where independent black schools made a mistake, you got to finance it. If you're subordinate to their financing, you're going to be subordinate to their thought. And unfortunately, there were moves, around charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
A number of independent black schools saw the opportunity to get a lot of money. Every one of those schools are dead now, every one of them. And African People's Organization operates on self-reliance, economic self-reliance, just like this show does. Most of you watch and don't contribute anything to. And you think I got a lot of money, so I should just be handling this. You need to put some support into this. But if you want anything to run on your direction, you're going to have to think it through. And you're going to have to pay for it. Ain't nobody coming into your house, paying your mortgage or your rent, taking care of your wife, and it's your wife, you hear me? Or your children. You got to take care of yourself. You all know that, because that ain't nobody here going to be letting anybody do that. So why we let somebody do that when it comes to any other institution we built? We got to go get a grant for this and a grant for that. I'm not opposed to blacks getting grants, by the way. There are some grants that are just fine. But if you think you're going to get your liberation through a grant, you're really killing yourself. Because the groups that got a lot of funding, those are groups that only do what the grant says they should do. And they're usually good objectives. But the system knows they can contain you with a limited objective. But when most movements don't need money to get off the ground. The Black Panther Party didn't get financing when they got off the ground. The San Francisco Freedom Movement King's movement, even though the national organization got a little bit of money, those movements on the ground didn't need money. They needed the dedication of their people. And no finance, no romance. And if you're not doing the black financing, you won't get any black romancing. You hear what I'm saying? Huh? And so
Romance.
you can be tough however you teach. If you don't finance it, it ain't happening. So, I mean, that is a key point. That means that you're not going to have the kind of money to pay teachers at the level that they should be paid.
Right.
Public schools don't even pay them at the level they should be paid unless they're in elite school districts. But here, it means that you're going on bare minimum. By the way, Robert Woods and you, Ustadi, how you all been able to function teaching an independent black school, which has been basically financed through parent tuition with very little money? How have you handled that?
About doing other jobs on the side.
Okay.
I used to, at one time I ran a art business. I frame and sold art. And that was one of the things that I did on the side, along with tutoring and other things to enhance my economical situation. But we had to do something, especially in my early days on the side, to put away money because I don't have a retirement fund. I am my retirement fund. So that is the sacrifice you have to make, be independent. And I am quite happy, put it that way.
I say.
Right on. Right on. Got anything to add to that, Ustadi?
Well, you know, I was teaching. I forget one of the students' name. I was driving my tow truck, and then in the evening time, but I always rode in my tow truck, and so I would teach the class. And I remember I was supposed to meet a student father at the school, so I rolled in at the same time that he was rolling in, but I was in my tow truck. And the teacher and the student, the parents say, you know, you don't look like the average administrator. I say, I'm not, you know, because we still have to make money, you know. I was fortunate enough to have my own business and fortunate enough to teach at the school and still pay the school to get, you know, to make the difference up. And then Diabetes owns a lot of property, so we was fortunate. We just have to make it work, and we have each other back. That's we've been having each other's back so long that we don't even worry about our back because we know we got our back. You know.
Yeah, that's very important. And this interview for Ustadi and Robert Woods is in his towing business and other auto business. Ustadi is a master of cars, including racing cars. There's a question here aloud to Zoo. Ustadi and Robert Woods, what strategies have the independent African school movement developed to remove African students from the public school system, along with tapping into the funding?
I would say that's a very difficult one because you got we only deal with fourth grade up because the reason that being, and we graduate students. Now, as long as they're from preschool to the sixth grade, you got total control over your kids because what happens, you can take them to school, bring them from school, and yes. But as soon as they get 10, they have a tendency to move toward the streets, 11, 12, 13. You see, so when you get to the 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, it's very difficult because now they're in a position of rebelling against their parents. And so the hardest part, it's almost, I would tell you right now, it's almost impossible to get into a public school thought process. Why? Because when you lose the majority of your kids to baseball, girls or boys to senior, junior prom, they got these things that entice them, and you got the cell phone. Now that you got the cell phone, it's insanity That's what it is. I'll give you an example. One of my kids just took the SAT. So if you ever look at the SAT book, you got the part for on the math part, you got the part for cell phone for where you can use it as a cell phone as a computer or none. But once he went to the to take the test just here the 11th of March, since it's not required, everybody gonna tell me this. I know it's not required, but what you found when it went there, it was a room full of maybe 150. It was only 2 black kids there. The rest of them was Asians and whites. And then they tell them they cannot use their computer. They cannot use their cell phones for it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, but yet on the test, on the book, that this
Right.
is for calculate. Use calculate. But within the book itself, it says it's not required. You see? So now they gearing you up to fail. Okay. Now the question on how can you get into the public school? It's you can get into the public school only as how would I say Black History Month to encourage people, but it's very difficult because it's not about getting into the public school. It's about whether or not Black parents is really in control of their Black children and let them know what is best for them. But we rather invest in a car than invest in our kids. So there goes your theory out the door.
Brother Robert Wood, you got anything to add to that?
No, I'm going to let that rest.
Well, I want to remind Brother Lao Tzu and other viewers and some that didn't watch the show. We did a show on a successful takeover of the public schools in Kansas City, Missouri. We also went through the most successful after-school program in the United States in Kansas City, Missouri, the W.B. Du Bois Learning Center.
Yeah, but
And what we showed was that the Black United Front in Kansas City took over a number of public schools, teaching over 1,400 students for 22 years. And they controlled the budget and they ran the school, and they had the highest achievement levels in the city and the state of Kansas City. So one of the questions is, what do we do to fight to take over the public schools? For example, one of the things that's happening right now is charter schools across the country are getting a sizable part of the public school budget. Almost 40% of the Oakland school budget, which this interview is being conducted in Oakland, goes to charter schools. And those are set up for the rich to take the tax dollars of Black parents, brown parents, red and yellow parents, stick them in the pockets of the rich. And so that's being controlled by outside forces. The take away, that's called neoliberalism. To take away public budgets and put them in private hands. So there's an assumption you can't control the public schools. You could. It's a question of how serious you are about organizing for them. And there's a question here with Lao Tzu is asking, how do you access and tap into the funding? We've just told you, if you have an independent Black school, you don't want to. Why are you asking that question? You don't want to, because along with that is going to come some dictation. But if you're controlling the policy, it's a different story. But you have to have a different mentality for that. And let me tell you something. You want a serious fight? Go after public school money. That's the biggest budget in a city. Go after it and see who's coming after you. So it's going to take some guts. But can you do it? Yeah, you can do it. It's a question of, how, for example, Kansas City was able to control 2 or 3 schools based on this for 22 years. They had one person on the Board of Education that made that happen. What happened if they had 9 of them, 8 of them, 7 of them? And in school districts where Blacks are a large number or a majority, that could happen. You know? So, and then Ustadi's talking about other things that are other issues. So
can I say something though?
Go ahead.
In reference to the brother, see, that's the problem. I know we pay taxes, but we also buy things that we don't need. Right. that's if black folks ever come to the idea that they care about their kids the way they care about the tires on their car, what the paint job is, then we wouldn't have this problem. We would not have this problem. I tell you what, it was 1994. I was at a Council of Independent Black Institution meeting, national meeting, and that was one of the things that what's the brother Africa. Yeah, Africa. What's the brother name from Chicago?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, man.
Afrique?
Yeah, Baba Afrique.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had the national, what was it? The National Parents Association. They wanted us independent institution to become charter schools. Because that was the push. You could get money. Now, a lot of us said no, and some said yes. The one that says yes is no longer in business because now, instead of pushing education for the youth or trying to get programs for the youth, now you're worried about pushing paper. Make sure the paper is right. Make sure make sure all the money's right. So that takes the smartest people out of it. So that's another aspect of it. When you're dealing with money from somebody else, you got to make sure that money only goes where it want to go. Because if the minute it don't, you get out of it, then you're out of there. Because you're not parent funded no more, or community supported anymore. You are outside, and once they take the outside money away, you gone. And right. Some people caught cases behind it. So I'm just saying, I hear what you're saying, brother, but We've been having our hands out too long, begging the wrong people for the wrong thing. Nobody gonna give you for your freedom but yourself.
Right on. So let's get into the history of the African Children's Advanced Learning Center, how it was organized, and then get into its approach to teaching, which is extremely important. In terms of the history of it, the first part of organizing independent Black education occurred between 1966 until around 1969, 1970, where we organized a program called the Young Chewies.
Yeah, right.
Young Leopards. Yeah, right there. See these guys sitting with these kids. This was an after-school program made up of kids from 5 and 6 years old to about 16 years old. And I started that in 1966. And to show you the results of that, I'm in the Fillmore, which is part of the Black community at that time. And a young brother comes up to me and he says, you saved my brother's life. I said, how did I save your brother's life? He said, well, in addition to teaching history and culture and some skills, math and whatnot, we were teaching them how to swim. I'm the only person in my family that knows how to swim. And so he said, my brother was drowning, and because I could swim, I saved his life. That's not what you think about when you're setting up a school. I said, really?
Yeah.
And I'm not the greatest swimmer either, you know what I mean? But I can paddle, I can get from one end of the pool to the other. So that was the first thing, the Young Chewies, Young Leopards. And then from 1972 on, for 5 years, we had what was called the 5-year plan. And this is a little example of that here. And part of that 5-year plan was the building of an independent Black school, which at that time was Pan-African Center for Progressive Education, that later changed its name. And Brother Ustadi explained that. So we spent a year bringing together parents, teachers, students, community organizations to plan the school. We had already purchased a building. That's a key thing. See, Ustadi was talking to me earlier about this. One of the most important things in organizing is institution building. And if you're not doing institution building, even though there's a thing called issue organizing, which is important, institution building is where you really build real power. And so the Independent Black School is one of the products of that. And so one of the things we did, you see this building on the side here, we bought a building, 5,800 square foot Victoria.
3 stories.
And we put half the money down, and then the members paid the rest off. And the point is, that was where we housed our programs. And so the building was called the Malcolm X Unity House. Inside, Pan-African People's Organization had 2 rooms that were living rooms that you could seat about 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
That was called Marcus Garvey Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that level to the upstairs, we had 2 levels. We put the school. You know what I mean? So we could have a school because we had some basis for operating it, a building we owned. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then to form this school, we then had our organizers go into the public schools, and we rented public school buses and pulled the kids out of the public schools, 4,500 kids. And this was the launching of the
Progressive
educational movement for the Pan-African Center for Progressive Education. And then we hired the teachers and whatnot and began the teaching. So that was like the beginning. And then when we moved to Oakland, then the name was changed, African Children's Advanced Learning Center, and Ustadi explained earlier why. So that's kind of the backdrop. You got to understand that school was formed in the midst of a Pan-African movement.
That's right.
Because in the 70s, we're about supporting African independence and stuff like that. You want to talk about that?
ALDs?
Right.
You talking about African Liberation Day?
Yeah, talk about that.
Oh yeah, we didn't start African Liberation Support Committee. And I guess that was 73, 74, 75, 76. Anyway, that's when Mozambique, Angola, South Africa, Tanzania, they was all Southwest Africa, and that was Namibia, right? Namibia. That's when we was receiving a lot of we was giving support, and people was coming this way. So it was at the height. Yeah, you're right. It's at the height of the Pan-African movement, and so the consciousness level was real high because JB had came out with "Say It Loud" and "Black and Proud" in 68, 69. So you could really cut the soul. You could cut the love. There was a lot of love that came during that time. And so that was one of the things the Pan-African People's Organization was primary in, was African liberation support, education. That was the institution. That was our prime objective at that particular time. Moving on the continent, helping on the continent, countries raised in here in the Bay Area and throughout the United States with African Liberation Support Committee, because it was all over. So that was one of the things, that was a climax at that particular time.
Darnisha Ubuntu says, what happened to that school? Why did it close? Is the property still available, worth millions? Not, I'm sure. We don't own the building anymore, but we still operate the school in another building, and that building is in Oakland.
Owned by one of our members.
Yeah.
Owned by one of our members.
Owned by one of our members. We're not renting from anybody. We don't have to pay rent. Now, in looking at the school, give some examples of life stories of some of our children who have entered African Children's Advanced Learning Center. Some of the life stories of some of the challenges they faced, their families, but especially them, when they came into the school.
I think what I'll run this down first of all before we do that. We had 4 pillars that we was dealing with within the school. And the first one is discipline. The second one was self-esteem. The third one was academic. The fourth one was tough love. Okay, let's go back to discipline. When you come out of a public school, you usually have none respect for the teacher, none respect to doing the homework, none respect of your classmates. So the first thing we got to get you acclimated to get you used to is first coming to school on time, keeping your mouth zipped if ain't nobody asking you a question, respect the teacher, respect everyone around you, and whatever you do, don't try to tear up the building. Now, these are all things that they're used to doing at a public school that has nothing to do with our school. So I'm talking about people, children that haven't had proper upbringing, and a lot of times you'll have children that don't have a mother or father. They're staying with their grandmother. You have that. So discipline is very important to us. And when you come in, we usually meditate it. When you come in, we teach you to meditate. Why teach you to meditate? All the problems you had at home, leave them at home. At the end of the day, we meditate. Why meditate at the end of the day? Because all the problems you had at school, leave them at school. So we have to, it's our job to try to bring them around to understanding what it is community about. That's the aspect of self-discipline. After self-discipline, then we try to bring up their self-esteem. Why bring up their self-esteem? Because if a person have low self-esteem, he gonna mess up with the discipline aspect of it. It takes, just like some people learn how to ride a bicycle at 5, some learn at 10, but the important part, they learn, okay? So the second one is self-esteem. So what we try to do with self-esteem with the meditation every morning, meditation every evening, is that we give them the values, the 10 virtues. I must control my thoughts. I must control my action. I must have a devotion of purpose. I must have respect for my teacher. So the thing is, why do that? Because if I can get you to control your thought, then I ain't got to worry about you hitting nobody. See, so that's I'm just getting a little bit. So then after that, if I can get you to sit down, listen, control your thoughts, then I can give you the academics. Then you're ready for some academics. Because one of the things any good teacher will tell you, if they are a teacher, if you can't control your classroom, it's a waste of time for you to try to teach. This is a method to this. So we got you on the first two, then we can give you academics. Then you can begin to understand what it means to study. Learn study habits. You don't see there. If you do something once, you forget it. But if you do it the second time and the third time, just like a song, now it's getting deeper into your brain. If you start writing, you have memory in your muscles, so you can write things. So that's how we get them academic. And the fourth one is tough love. Why we give them tough love? We give them tough love because you can have input on everything that you want to have input on if we're having a discussion or if there's a problem, but you're not going to determine the outcome. That's one of the problems that we have. You cannot let your children, oh, I don't want to go to this school. Now, look, the boy ain't even got a room, and you had him saying it's his room. He tell you or she tell you what, I'm going to the store. Not when I was coming up, can I go to the store? You see, so we lost it. So our tough love is letting them know where they stand on the scales of what we do here. So it's a whole process. I just wanted to get that out of the way first, Brother Shaka.
Yeah, that's good. We can come back to the one I asked before. In discussing this last night, I thought that Robert Woods, you made an important point. And it's a key one we're going to address right now. And that is, what happens when a child enters the school to undergo an education? What do you do to determine what specific kind of education will be delivered to him or her? And how does this approach different from what's happening in public schools?
Well, my approach, first of all, when a child enters the school is to assess where they are in academics. I do an assessment in math, reading, spelling, and I do geography, but primarily reading, spelling, and math. Assess where they are, and I should put in writing, the assessment in that. And in the writing, I want to know if you know punctuation, basic punctuation. So I give an assessment in all those areas. And then from there, I know how to build a program that will advance you to the next level. In public schools, I know that giving each child an assessment who enters is difficult with the number of people. But I think that they're going to have to figure out something, because when a child enters a school, for instance, coming from another school or graduating from elementary school to middle school and from middle school to high school, how do you know what they know? You just have set categories based on their age and grade and where you're going to put them. And we don't teach by grade level or age level. We deal with competency level. That's where we want to start. And that's, I think, the major difference. And I think that is the major success that we have in building programs around students.
Yeah, that really impressed me when you said you don't teach to grade levels, you teach to the competency level or the level of a student's knowledge.
Exactly.
And that's real teaching. That shows real concern, because you're starting out where a student is to take them to another level. So you got any things about how you move them from one level to the other?
Yeah. For instance, in math, particularly in math,
479.
we have books in math that will teach the basics, from the basics to fraction, from fractions to decimal. And at each level, I'm going to assess what you have learned. I will give a unit test at the end of fractions, and you have to pass by 80%. If you don't pass by 80%, we go back and see where you're weak, shore that up, then you take that test again. Before you go to decimal, you got to pass fraction. Before you get out of decimals, you got to pass a level test to get out of decimals in order to go into percentages, and so on, step by step. And so each step must be solidified by 80% testing. That's one of the things that I think that is very necessary. And by the way, you can't use computers. You can't use phones. You can't use any type of adding device. You got to go from your head all the way to trigonometry. You cannot use any tools. You got to be able to do it from here.
Right on. Got anything to add to that, Ustadi?
We have what we call the Blue Book. The Blue Book is Achieving Competency in Math, and that's 479 pages. And it goes from integers all the way up to beginning algebra. And then after they get out of that, like he said, there's modules in there and themes. And then once they get out of that, they gotta pass by 80%. And then once they get out of that, they get into the Pink Book. The Pink Book is a algebra book. So and what we do at the end of each chapter 1, all the way up to chapter 23, all the way up to chapter 23, you have to pass the SAT type test by 80%. If don't, you get recycled back, because the thing is, passing in our school is 80, it's not 50. So if there's 10 questions, you got to get 8 right. If you miss 7, sorry, you can go back to that section, you go back and learn, because we want you to understand that, and that's the way we do it. And we have our methodology is 80% on everything. If you're doing chemistry, it's 80%, biology, everything is 80%. So that's the difference between us and other schools.
and some other independent black schools too. I can tell you that.
Hmm.
What's the curriculum? Give a description of the curriculum, subject areas.
Okay, we have science, mathematics, language arts, and language arts include, I do vocabulary for everybody. No matter what grade level in, you have to take a spelling test, and the vocabulary includes knowing the definition of the words. You have to pass both levels. Not only can you spell the word, you know the definition by 80%. You don't pass, you get extra work on the weekend. Geography, that's what we call a floating assignment. I just give out maps. I give you a atlas. You learn the countries. Every Friday you come in and take a test on geography. You don't pass by 80%. You do extra work, 20 maps on the weekend to bolster what you don't know. A language arts is writing. We write book reports every week. Plus we write essays and then rewrite. If you make errors, you have to rewrite the paper. And all the rewrites are checked. So you can't make an error in the rewrite. For instance, if you misspell a word right now, I'm at 125. You have to write that word 125 times. If you didn't edit your paper, look at the words that you're using in the paper, essay or book report, then you have to rewrite that. And if you make a mistake in punctuation, you have to write it over 20 times. If I start off very lightly at 5, and I work my way up. As we go along, I expect you to do better month by month. And by the end of the year, I expect you not to be doing all the extra work that you have to do on the weekend. Science.
This is rigor. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's science, primarily anatomy and biology, and I do a little physical science. But the major part is know thyself. We want you to know about your body, and cover all the biological systems and anatomy, knowing every bone in the body, knowing the respiratory system, the nervous system. So each system you have to conquer, and you have to pass by 80%. I give tests at everything that you do. And sometimes we have projects with students. We'll do project boards and explain to the whole class what they're doing and so forth and so on. And so that covers science, geography, mathematics, language arts. Those are the basics that I cover.
What's your over? Are there any special teaching methods that you use that you think is important? Now, you may have already covered this, but I want to make sure I haven't missed it. Is there any approaches to teaching that you think are especially important that you use?
Well, right now I've developed a system where I don't do a lot of teaching. I want to do as when I say a lot of teaching, a lot of talking to students about subjects. I don't give lectures because we're building programs for individual students right now. And so I would give you a subject, for instance, give you a science packet. You read it. There are questions that you have to answer. And then I come back and talk to you about what you're reading, the questions that you answer. And in the end, then I give you a unit test on that subject. I will give you information on math. Read the instructions. Do you understand it? If you understand it, then come explain it to me. And if you can explain it to me, then you go ahead and do the practice exercises. And so I'm trying to get students to be self-perpetuated, that you don't need me. I'm a guide for you. I lay out the outline where you're going to go. Here's Here's what you have to do to get there. If you can read and understand it and explain it to me, then you go on with the exercises. And then in the end, you would take a test on that before we go to the next level.
I really like that point of you're not doing a lot of lectures, because that is the way the Western system, where it drops stuff on you. It's just talk, 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 and some read, 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 but it's just designed to deposit stuff in you. You're bringing stuff out. Wolf Manlew made the point that when you start at people's level, you're not trashing their self-esteem.
Right.
I think that's a really important point, Wolf Manlew, and I think that y'all are conscious of that, you know?
Exactly.
So that's that's a master teacher. That's kind of like in any art, the mastery of war is to win without a fight. Mastery of teaching is to teach without teaching too much. You know what I mean? That's a beautiful point that you're making right there.
Yeah.
I would imagine that approach increases the student's self-confidence as they're able to negotiate the material on their own.
Yeah.
I give you
Go ahead.
I'll give you an example. Because it happened to me. If you're going to do, it doesn't make no difference. Algebra 1, 2, trig, it doesn't make no difference. Calculus. I teach them to do it by a step. You got to give me one. First, you write the problem down, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You might have a step, make a mistake on number 4, but if you're in college, you'll get, if it's a 10-point question, 10 points on that particular problem, you got your 8 steps. You missed the problem, but you won't get goose egg. You'll get 6. You might get 6 points. Why? Because he see your work and he see where you made your mistake. Don't just put it all over. Some people get this real quick. The quicker they get it, then the better they can analyze where they make the mistake.
Mm-hmm. Lisa makes the point. Educators are facilitators who guide the lessons to a point. Now, Lao Tzu is making a comment. It's a question here. Robert Woods, why not use computers and calculators? Do the students derive cube roots and logarithmic functions in their heads? How does learning math lead to their liberation?
Okay, cube roots. Cubes. The cubes is, see, here's the key point. In the back of the book, logarithm is in the back of the book.
Right.
A lot of things in algebra books in the back. Let me see. 4 times 3 is what? 4 cube is what? 64? Cube, 64. You see what I'm saying? So some things, what's 20 times 20? That's an easy one, right? What's 19 times 19? We teach them all the way up until 25 to know the squares of them. Now you can guesstimate a lot of squares, because if I say 15 times 15 is 225, right? And I know 13 times 13 is 169, right? Then I can count. You see? So it's how you teach it and how you get them dependent. If you're gonna get them dependent, that's a different thing. We have had, who was that? That was Aneka?
Yes.
Aneka, what was?
Aneka went. The story he's talking about is a student named Aneka. Aneka went to Hampton Institute for a summer program, and she was going to enter a calculus. It was a calculus class. It was a calculus class, and
She had to take a pretest.
she had to take a pretest, and they told her to bring your calculators, your math calculators. Well, she never had seen a math calculator in our school, and she called her mother. She was worried. And she said, I don't have a math calculator. What am I supposed to do? She said, what did you do before you got to the summer program? She said, well, you did it in our head. She said, well, that's what you're going to have to do. 200 students, according to Aneka, took that test. 3 passed. She was one of them. She didn't use a calculator. They had to cancel the course because there wasn't enough students who passed the pretest to take the course. Nick Adams at the time. His name was Nick Adams.
Yeah. Yeah, the fastest calculator you got is in your head, but it's just like okay, if you're in a country, you know which path to take, or if you got a lead cow, you just put the bell on the lead cow, and then he'll bring all of them home, or you hear him because he know how to come home. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying to you in so much sense is it's like a calculator, junk in, junk out. You see what I'm saying? So you program yourself to not to know cubes. You actually program yourself to not to know because you can pump your button. But I'll tell you what happened to me. I was going to San Francisco State and I lost my damn calculator. So that little smart Thabiti Umtambuzi started getting me to know the square root of things. You know, the root thing. You see what I'm saying? And so you can get it, especially doing trig. It's up to us to teach. It's not up to us to tell them what to buy. You know, and if they built the pyramids without a computer, electronics, now are we that dumb? Are we that dependent? So once again, we're going back to who are we following? We're following Master Judge. Master Judge tell you this is what you need, but when you get there, just like I said to SAT, they couldn't use no calculator. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we doing trick or treat. Do not be the trick, be the treat.
Right on. Now, both of you describe the role that African and African American history plays in teaching students in the curriculum at ACAL. What's the role? What's the importance of that?
I think the importance of a historical reference, number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, it instills a character that you cannot get from studying European history. Let me let this car go by. I think that it builds pride, and a prideful person is usually a successful person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's just something mm-hmm. about mm-hmm. feeling good about yourself mm-hmm. that means something mm-hmm. as you approach a world that's predicated against you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Well put. Mm-hmm. You're very succinct for a poet, brother. Not wordy and all over the place. A proudful person is a successful person. You know, that's interesting because whites know that. Now, mm-hmm. very often, their pride is false. They've created a false history, a false narrative. They did all the things they didn't do. You know what I mean? They neglect all the bad things that they've done.
Right, of course. Of course.
And, you know, they create a false sense of self-esteem. Yes. But when it comes to us, they'll say, oh, this is just feel good. Well, no, it's not. But what's wrong with feeling good? Theirs is a feel bad. What's good about that? You know what I mean? But you know, I think people should frame that. A proudful person is going to be a
prideful
person.
Yeah, prideful.
Okay, prideful. So, let's see. So, anything else on the history component, Ustadi, that you want to add in terms of?
Well, the only thing I could say, as we tell the children that we are what make us unique as an African people is nobody on the face of this earth to say that they were the first on this face of this earth, and that's what make us unique, because no other race can say that. Although we're all a part of the human race, but Africans was the first. And you go to any university of any salt, we'll tell them that. So that right there means we're the first teachers, first parents, first everything. So that's what make them unique. That's what make them, like Baba Wood said.
And then found the greatest civilizations on the planet, Kemet being at the top, but many others as well. And that ain't no minor thing. And then the disciplines that we're studying, we founded them.
Exactly.
And then the African American, I always make this point, the African American has an ethos, the way you carry yourself and stuff. Other people who watch this show have heard it. Some that are new haven't. All African people and all people have some creative thing. But the ethos, the carriage, the very unique feature of the African in America is creativity. That is at our soul and at our heart, and it is so a part of us. A lot of us take it for granted.
Well,
A
yeah.
lot of us don't even value it, or we limit it to a sphere like singing or dunking a basketball, and we think that's all it is. When put us in any domain, you will see that we'll be going up to the highest level. That sister who was doing the math in the space thing, you know what I mean? Where her brain was better than the computer. You understand? You know, before the boy took off, he said, I don't trust the computer. Check her. And that sister's lived to over 100 years of age, by the way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The point is, that's your essence. You got little geniuses walking into the schools of this country and being treated like they're nothing, like they're fools. And then psychology is if you have high expectations of something, you will usually rise to that. And if enough time is drilled into your head that you're nothing or you're below something, you'll act like that. You know what I mean? And the independent Black school, a good Black teacher, wherever they are, that's their job. A good Black parent, that's their job, to tell their kids they're the greatest at whatever they're the greatest at, and everybody is at something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think that whole point that you're making right there is extremely important. And I hope people get this idea. This ain't no soft studies here. This is some stuff that covers everything. So let's hit the rubber, hit the road thing, because someone already asked this question.
Before you go there, Shaka, let me just throw this out there since we're talking, okay? Now, if you're a math teacher or you play anything in algebra, you're gonna know that a Pythagorean theorem, you know what that is, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But you gotta remember, Pythagorean went to school in Kemet for 22 years. That's where he studied. So don't think that's his we call it Imhotep theory in my place. We don't use Pythagorean. See, but if you don't know that, you think this boy is smart. This boy ain't smart. You have to do your homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you originated that stuff. So here's the rubber hit the road thing. What is the percentage of Black students who graduate from the African Children's Advanced Learning Center? What percentage of them go on to universities? And what percentage of them get scholarships? Give them that little number. And this is a 51-year-old school.
No, I recall that at least 93% of all the graduates go to college. I can't remember what percentage receive scholarships, so I don't remember that.
I was told by Thabiti 50%.
How much?
50%.
50%, okay.
Yeah, 50%. And
Then the graduation.
But I think another thing is what percentage stay in school, college, because you can get in. You can get in. Can you get out?
Right.
So, I think that somewhere around 98% of all the students who enter college get out of college with a degree that escaped from our school.
Right.
Right now, currently I can remember two folks who graduated, and we say graduated, not just left the school in the 10th grade, but I'm talking folks who went to 12th grade and graduated from the school. Right now, I'm looking at memory of two brilliant young ladies. One is Dr. Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Who's a physician, should be finishing up a residency in Chicago. Right. And Ashika Deskins, who is a naturopathic doctor who just graduated this past in 22, in June 22.
No kidding.
What about Sister Dugan's daughter?
Sister Dugan's daughter,
what's her first name?
Jamila.
Jamila, yeah.
And I don't know her last name now. She just recently
she got married. Right?
Just recently married.
Yeah.
But she receives a doctorate degree from education from the University of California, and she's running a Africana program in one of the colleges
in Philly. She's back
in Philly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, might be Temple. But anyway, those are just a few that I can name off. And Aneka, we talked about Aneka as
How
a
about
scientist.
Ali was
Ali,
on, they was on front cover or something.
Yeah, he was in USA Today, something like that.
They went broad.
It's a stockbroker right now.
And,
Wow.
the Deskin boy,
Joker.
Abidi said, was an average math student, scored one of the highest scores on the math exam at Howard.
That was the Ashika. Ashika scored.
That was a Sheikah, yeah.
Yeah, she scored
Ashika.
she was in a summer school, and
Yeah.
the math teacher wrote a letter
Yeah, right.
saying that he
right.
had never given an A in 30 years.
Yeah, that was a Sheikah.
30 years. He's impressed. He wants to know something about the school.
No computer.
No,
I mean, let me clarify. We have
No.
computers, but no calculator.
No calculator,
And when you're
yeah.
doing the work.
yeah. Now we do allow students to do research with computers
Yeah, we do.
and phones, no problem. But you can't use them during math class, right? Things of that nature, or taking tests in math.
So y'all get this. This is excellence on every level. Now, what do you all do to teach the students about their obligations to the community once they get their education? What is it that you're telling them, and what effect have you seen this has had on students?
Well, we're not doing that now, but we used to do passages out of the Hosea, and students had to write every night. Actually, a little essay every night, a page every night. There's something. The older students had to write 2 pages every night on the Hosea, and passages from the Hosea. We do Maya, 42 Principles of Maya. What's the other one?
What, the book?
No,
You talking about
the
book?
values,
Virtue.
the virtues.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a class we call it value clarification. And value clarification is at the first class. That comes right after meditation. It's come out of the Hosea. I might give them a passage, something like stanza number 5. I forget it's Ptahhotep. Be diligent as long as you live, always doing more than is commanded of you. Do not misuse your time while following your heart, for it's offensive to the soul to waste one's time. Diligence produces gains, and gains do not endure when diligence is abandoned. So that's you might have to write on the first two or the second, but there's a zillion of them. Now, in respects to the community, a lot of our kids, let me say it like this. When we was doing rites of passage programs, that was a part of it. And when we was doing the Council of Independent Black Institutions Science Fair, that's where we went to Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, where else? LA.
With Ohio, what's the place in Ohio?
We went to Ohio. But anyway, what it does, all of the independent Black institutions come together, and they do a science fair. But the science fair is real hard, is judged real hard. But the key point that got the kids is after that we have a cultural exchange, and the cultural exchange. DC was in DC, right? We was in DC 94, I think it was 94 when we was in DC. Them kids it's memory to me, but we had a lot of them after that. But them kids had a full gym packed at Howard, right? We was at Howard.
I think it was Howard.
Yeah, we was at Howard because they got swim. We was at Howard. They had a full gym. And them kids, boy, you talking about got down. That's what really solidified them wanting to be a part of the thing, because we actually travel. Now, the question is, how does that help the community? When we do rites of passage program, then that helps us. Some of the kids, I think Randy graduated, but Randy has his own businesses, and he give back to the community. He has a cooking thing. Catering thing
in Las Vegas.
There's a lot of kids that give back. They just don't, so they have that thought process of giving back. You know, it's everybody got their matter of fact, Sister Dugan, what's
Jamila.
Jamila was on just like we're on this podcast right now. She did a podcast back there and she was shouting out African Children Advanced Learning Center, Brother Woods, Diabetes, and myself. And so she's doing community work back there also with some type of program, educational program that she have where she's at. So let me see. I wasn't ready for that program, that thought process, that particular question, because I have to think on it. If I had wrote it down, I'd probably be more clear in respects to that.
Well, you've been clear. So we're wrapping up now. Is there anything you all want to summarize in conclusion in terms of the importance of independent Black schools, what you're doing, anything else?
Well, I think that your program starts off, if you free your mind, the rest of you will follow. I think it says at the beginning of the program, we have to free our mind and everything else will follow.
Got that right.
And I think it was Dr. Clark that stated that the biggest it was in his African philosophy. The biggest challenge with African education is African identity.
Mm.
Right. Exactly. And by the way, I would add to that. I was talking to Thabiti, and y'all know you did a good job with his children, especially Okosawa's granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things he's proudest of, and I think it's an example of what independent Black schools can achieve, is that as she's gone through university, the students are asking her how she got all this information, how she know all this stuff, how she got all this self-confidence. She said, "That's all I know."
And that's right. That's you.
He also told Thabiti that she was resistant to it. A lot of it she didn't like, she didn't want, and if she got a choice, she could have been mediocre. But without the choice, at a certain point, it clicked. And when she got this full scholarship at a major Ivy League, university, 4 years. By the way, this sister has a geography test, which is a part of what you all require your students. And so she was given a bunch of different countries. And so you pick a country. And if you ace this test, then it gives you almost half the grade for the semester. You know what I mean? And she didn't just ace the test because of the way you all do everything. You had to know everything about a country, the capital city, the cities, everything else. Right. She knew all of it. And then asked the teacher, "You got any more questions?" The key point that I would say is that the biggest gain of this kind of education, and especially when the parents are in line with it, and sometimes when they aren't, is that you actually can create people who come to this deep stage of African identity, this deep stage of self-confidence, this deep stage of self-love. Because I know Thabiti, his greatest pleasure was that his granddaughter is actually enjoying knowledge, pursuing wisdom. She's enjoying that, you know what I mean? Which ain't always the case. So that isn't just a kudo to y'all's work, but it shows what the potential is when you control that educational environment, and it's a demand for excellence, and she's seeing it around her, or the student is, it inspires them to excellence. And so I'd say to both of you and the people watching this show, I love you. You all know I love you, but I mean the dedication that you've displayed for our people, and especially our children, and all the others, Shapaza Sadifu's not on this show, that he's displayed, Fanya McKinney, Thabiti Mtambuzi, who we talked about before, and others who have taught in this school, have given something really precious to our young people and to our community. You know what I mean? And makes me proud, Say it loud. I'm
Black-
black and I'm proud.
I just like to leave with one quote. The Honorable Sekou Touré say you either use the people or you serve the people. There is no in between.
Right on.
All right.
Okay, so we're finished. Lao Tzu had a question, Ustadi 7 1/3. How do you teach the manual solution to this problem? It's got 7 in parentheses and then 1/3. This is not the same as 7 times 7 times 7. My question is, how do you teach?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Is it the exponent? What is he doing?
He's got a formula here: 7 in a parentheses and then a 1/3. How do you teach the manual solution to this problem?
Equals is 7 1/3 equal what? That ain't no equation.
That's it.
What
And he's asking is, this is not
what
the
he's trying to,
same.
is he trying to solve something?
He's saying this is not the same as 7 times 7 times 7. My question is, how do you teach students to perform these calculations in their head?
Okay, normally, sir, on this thing right here, it's intangible and it's formal. I like informal where I can see what you're talking about. So I pass by, sir. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, you can't see the question there.
Yeah. Some of us have seen this problem. We got to see it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I like to see it.
Right on. Let's see if there's any other comments or questions here.
Okay.
Not trying to be funny, That's why I really had to stop teaching because I have one eye and that pencil's killing me.
No, I understand. Let's see the rest of this.
Yeah, 7 1/3. So
Wolf Manlu, has anyone here looked at cometic multiplication using a base 2 system and doubling?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. Have you?
no, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
What would be the advantage of using it?
Yeah, that's a question to Wolf Manlu. See if there's anything else here.
You have enough to keep us busy.
Yeah.
Ancient African mindset says, depend on no one. It is we thing as Africans. We must support our progressive schools.
Yeah.
We control.
That's right.
Very important.
Very important.
Very important.
And if you want to send a donation to the African Children's Advanced Learning Center, we'll put up where you can send it to. Bakari Sanyu, what type of parental and guardian input, participation, support, and advocacy do you have in the independent Black schools operation?
Well, we can only speak to African Children's Advanced Learning Center, and the parents that we have must attend meetings once a month, at least a meeting once a month. And we have a thing called a homework sheet.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the homework is put on a sheet, each assignment, and the parents must sign off whether it is complete or incomplete. So they must be engaged daily in order for us to do what we're going to do. If not, then do we ask the student to leave? If you can't do the homework, if the parents can't control what's at home, then you can't send your problems to us. We could work on your problem together, but we're not going to accept your problem and you just wipe it away and you just go on about your business. You must be involved with the student's education.
Bakari Sanyu, question. What are your statuses for establishing African cultural consciousness in your students, in their homes, in their in their
Uh,
chaotic, unfocused neighborhoods.
I'm an African.
Say in that last part is
Yeah, the question is, how are you able, or what do you do to establish African consciousness in a student's home and in their neighborhoods?
Kwanzaa in African classes.
okay. The only thing we have going is primarily is what we, I guess, give to the students. We can't request that the parents study African history. We'll hope that the students will discuss what they're learning with the children. And so far as I know, that there's been no resistance to learning African history and culture.
And on the other side, we do Kwanzaa's, and we also do African drumming. Now, for the parents, some will participate, some won't. Some take a longer time to come than the other ones. So at least they're aware of it. Because they're aware of it, you can't make them do anything, but at least they're aware of it. And matter of fact, we just went to a funeral, and the brother been graduating from our school he didn't graduate from our school, he went to our school. And when we got to the funeral, it was amazing that the mother was African dressed back.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
And she
saying?
required drumming at the
Right.
the repast, drumming and African music at the repast.
It was over 100 people there,
Yeah.
and it was at a nice place. So you don't know who you touch. All you do is keep throwing.
That's very true.
Do we answer that question, Brother Shaw?
Yeah, I think you answered it.
Okay.
I see in some people asking questions that have been answered. Okay, that seems to be it.
Ashe.
So I want to thank you, two masters, bad brothers, and I hope people got a lot out of this.
Ashe.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for your recognition. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you. Yeah, you deserve it. And I want to say this. The younger a teacher is, the more, the younger the age level that they teach, the more important the teaching is.
Yes.
Here at the foundation. A lot of people give university professors some kudos and then just treat public school or private school teachers like they're nothing. And the proof of the pie is in the pudding. They don't pay them nothing.
All right.
And at black schools, I don't say that because parents are paying what they can afford, but the public schools. So I'd say that what you all do is the most important education that is provided because it's the foundation, and everything else is based on that. And y'all have provided an excellent foundation, not only technically, but morally, culturally, and in terms of a student's identity. So all praise to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Ashe.